Welcome back to the Rhonda Swan Show. Well, guys, this whole series that we have been introducing has been part of the Women Gone Wild series, and you've most recently met all the authors. Well, today you get to meet actually one of the speakers that are coming up in the Women Gone Wild Summit, and her name is Blair Kaplan Venables. This woman is an absolute powerhouse. Her story is something to really feel into, because she took traumas and issues that are happening right now presently in her life, and she used them as a stepping stone to create greatness in her life. So I want to introduce Blair Kaplan. Her name is Blair Kaplan Venables. She is an expert in social media marketing and the president of Blair Kaplan Communications. She's a British Columbia-based PR agency. Yahoo actually listed Blair as a top 10 social media expert to watch in 2021. And as a pioneer in the industry, she brings more than a decade of experience to her clients, which include global wellness, entertainment, and lifestyle brands. Blair has helped her customers grow their following into the tens of thousands in just 1 month, win integrative marketing awards, and more. She's spoken on national stages, and her expertise has been featured in media outlets, including Forbes magazine, CBC, Radio, CEO, World magazine. She owns it, and along with Thrives Global. She's a #1 best-selling author of Pulsing Through My Veins, Raw and Real Stories for an Entrepreneur, and co-host to the Dissecting Success podcast. Woo! That is a woman that is completely wild and as changing the platform of how women entrepreneurs run the show. Blair Kaplan Venables, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. And I am so honored to be able to use this platform to not only share my story, but to inspire others. I just want to start off with a trigger warning. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a social worker. I'm actually just a certified human. And what I say might trigger you. It's some really heavy stuff. It's my personal experience. Pause this, walk away, collect yourself. When you're ready to listen, dive in, because there's some really important messages, and there are resources out there that can help you navigate what you're going through. So my story all began when I was 7 years old and my parents divorced. I didn't know then what I know now, which is my father lives with addiction, and I was a daddy's girl. And so my parents divorcing meant my dad was in and out of my life due to his illness, and no one ever said anything to me about that. I thought he stopped loving me. And so my heart broke. I, grew up in my formative years as someone who resented him, had a lot of anger, was really, didn't trust people, brokenhearted. It was really hard. No one around me had any sort of experience like that, and I didn't know how to navigate it. Fast forward to my 20s, which was just last year. Just kidding. I wish. I mean, maybe, who knows? I was actually working for a company, Lululemon Athletica, and they gifted me a trip to Vancouver, British Columbia to go to the Landmark Forum. I didn't care about Landmark. I went because it was a free trip to see my friend. And I went to the Landmark Forum, and I was provided with the tools to be able to forgive my father. And we began this beautiful journey, developing our new relationship. I accepted him for who he was, and I started to learn who he was. And that's when things started to get really beautiful. And, I never thought I'd have the ability for him to, I didn't think he was going to walk me down the aisle. I didn't think he'd ever come visit me in Vancouver from Winnipeg, Manitoba. I started to develop this really beautiful relationship and bond. But fast forward to December 2018, we got news that my father was terminally ill. Is terminally ill. He was given 2 years to live, and he's still alive, and it's been over 2 years. And I felt really rocked because I already lost him once, and now I'm losing him again, and it didn't feel fair. And I didn't know how to navigate those feelings. So we started sharing our story. I started telling people, going for coffee, getting together with friends. And what was happening was every time I told my story, it was inspiring people to maybe get a therapist or want to fix things with their father, or maybe they're a social worker and they had a client in a similar situation as to I was in. And it was not only helping other people, but telling my story was helping me heal. And talking about it with my dad, which he never talked about, was really helping him heal. And I thought, you know what? Let's write a book. Let's create a book, gather stories of resilience, create a resource, and we'll bookend it with our stories, my story and my father's story. And this can be a legacy piece, a story that doesn't have to end with him, losing his life because of addiction and illness, but the story of a father-daughter bond and the evolution of our relationship.
Wow, you give me goosebumps, Blair. Like, this is really beautiful. I mean, like, I need to stop you just for a moment because, my father is the same. He's been out of my life for 15 years because he also had addiction, has been out of, in and out. It's like, wow, you just really inspired me. And I know others that are hearing this, it's like, wow, this is a beautiful project because your dad being terminally ill and now you're creating something as a legacy piece. Like, this is so beautiful. And this, I know now really, truly why you are representing the women of today, because this is big healing. So please continue. But it's like, I want to like really hear that from you. Like, what, you took this as an opportunity for you to help grow and heal. And how is that now affecting what you're doing in your daily life?
Yeah. I mean, so we started this project at the end of 2018 is when it happened. I'd say about March was when I was like, okay, this is what it is. And I was like, I'm going to start this project. I want to write this book. Okay, well, actually I need to gather stories from people from around the world. I guess I need a website, and my background's in marketing and PR. So like I built a very basic website, and I was like, I need social media because how am I going to get the word out there? So I built social media and I started this journey. And then I saw a workshop and it was like, learn how to write a book. I'm like, well, I don't know how to do that. So I went to this workshop and I actually wrote a practice book. I wrote a practice book, Pulsing Through My Veins, Raw and Real Stories from an Entrepreneur, which became a bestseller. It was actually my practice book to learn how to write a book before I wrote a book.
I love it.
It's totally another conversation for another time because anyways, that was a journey. And so I had these plans to like have this book out within a year. Okay. It's been 2.5 years. And this is where it gets a little heavy. And I'm not going to go too deep into each of these situations, but I really believe in manifestation. And at the time of creating this project, I didn't really understand it at the level that I understand it now. I'm a manifestor generator. I'm learning about my human design. So high level, this is how my life has been kind of bonkers. And, I'm okay. I will be okay. Sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm better than okay. Right now, at this moment, while recording this, I'm feeling really good because I'm doing a lot of healing work. But 2 years ago, July, I lost my grandfather, who was like my father. On the way home from the funeral, my husband and I got in a car accident on a highway and I got a concussion. And then I had to travel to Europe to do a product launch for one of my clients. Didn't have time to recover. It was very intense. Came back, cleared my schedule to recover. And my husband messaged me. He was having a heart attack. He ended up being in the hospital for 3 weeks. He had quadruple bypass surgery at age 43. And so that was, so this is like around then is when I was trying to finish my first book to like get ready, get the ball going for this. And so about a year, he was ready to go back to work. Then the pandemic happened, but not only did the pandemic happen, simultaneously to the world shutting down, one of my clients, I had to part ways with them due to anti-Semitism. I am Jewish. I'm very proud to be Jewish. And there was blatant anti-Semitism and I wasn't protected and it was not a safe space for me to be. I walked away from a high-paying client right when the world was shutting down, super scary. My glass coffee press exploded within the same week. Like first and second degree burns all over my chest and my face and my arm. Actually, my face was not as bad, but my arms, like I still have scars. So I did some healing. So excited to come into the last summer being really calm. Got the news that after trying to get pregnant for like 3 or so years that we might not be able to get pregnant. At the end of summer, we learned we were pregnant and it happened naturally without tests, without having fertility tests and this and that. But then November 3rd, things got really dark. We learned my father-in-law, who is like the dad I never had. We learned he had cancer. My father was having an issue I learned about within 10 minutes from that news. And then an hour later, I had a miscarriage. Wow. 3 weeks to that day after learning Dave had cancer, Dave passed away, my father-in-law. And then 3 months almost to that day, same thing happened to my mother. We learned she was sick with cancer and within a few weeks, gone. And that was only in February. That was the end of February. And during this time, obviously, sometimes when I was deep in the trauma, I had to pause the project because, it's a project and I got to be in the flow, especially, with what I'm dealing with. But the stories that were coming in were really helping me navigate it. And, but while doing this, my company, Blair Kaplan Communications, was the most financially successful it ever was. I was able to work the least I've ever worked. I was showing up when I was able to show up. And I guess that has to do with my masculine energy because I'm diving into this. So where I am today is the I Am Resilient project. I've done some I'm in this deep healing process, like childhood trauma, recent trauma, compound trauma. And it's really interesting to go down this avenue. And like, I'm sober. I haven't touched alcohol in 2.5 years. I've done a lot of stuff to strengthen my resilience muscle. So now I'm in a state where I'm ready to complete the first book. And our first book from the I Am Resilient project, it's coming out this fall. So I'm super, super pumped. Like I started my day off today with a meeting with the designer and the editor, and like, I just feel so good about it. So that's like a high level snapshot of like chaos and beauty.
Wow, that is like, if you think about like how we can look at circumstances and like go, so many people would say, why me? You know, like, why me? Like, why did this happen? And then they fall into some depths. And I'm sure that you went through a lot of, you know, stages of grief and really working through it. But what I love the most, Blair, is that you took that project now with your dad and it's launching. It's launching really soon, isn't it? And I'm super,
it is, and it's amazing because he's still alive. Like we didn't think he'd still be here.
Wow.
He's in palliative care. He's still living at home. But it's amazing that like I started this project because of my dad, and I've experienced all of this loss with main pillars of parents.
And he's there with you. Like he's there to help you experience it as well. Like that's because I know that was like such a loss that you had before, but now he's actually there.
Yeah, and it's just really interesting. Like. And for a while I was like the why me thing, but I can't be like that. You can't live in the why me. You need to be in that experience, do what you need to do to get through it, and then reflect.
Yeah, girl, I love it. All right, so this is so big. So the I Am Resilience project is coming out. When is it launching?
So the website exists. Anyone can submit a story anytime they want. Every story deserves to get told, but the first book, a beautiful hardcover coffee table style book, is coming out this fall.
Wow, amazing. Okay, so that's super exciting. So let's now, if we can, pivot a bit into like this, you know, experience that we're going to have together. That, you know, we have connected souls. Our stories are very aligned. We do, you know, similar work. We care so much about the way stories are being told on social media, in PR. And so when we align, I was like, wow, this woman needs to be one of our speakers for the Women Gone Wild Summit. And when you said yes, I was like, oh, this is so good, because your story, right, also deserves to be told. But we're asking women to come be wild with us. Like, you know, come with us and share in these stories. So would you share, like, what does Women Gone Wild really mean to you? And then, you know, how are you like applying this now in your life?
I just want to start off by saying I don't make the rules, I just break the rules. And being wild to me is being unapologetically you. It's showing up in the world, following your gut, being you, not trying to fit yourself into a box. And that's actually how I've always lived. And I do what I want. So how am I showing up in the world as a wild woman? I feel like I'm on this planet to be of service, to make a difference, to help inspire others, to empower others, to heal, to learn social media, and to, you know, be elevated and up level. And I do that by showing up as a wild woman.
Yeah, girl. Woo! And you are, and you so exuberant. It's like, I love it because you said earlier, I'm a manifesting generator. I'm like, woo, so am I, right? Like, because we get stuff done, and like that has an energy of wildness. However, the wildness inside, it's like because you're like really craving to break the mold, like, and we're not dealing with any of this bullshit anymore, this patriarchal, you know, women should be shunned, like this is garbage, right? We don't live in that anymore. And the fact that it's still present blows me away, right? So
I'm often the only, like, I started my business when I was 23. Not only was I always like often some of the youngest, but one of the only, I showed up to a lot of things where I was one of the only or very few women.
Right? I mean, if you think about this marketing world it's so masculine, right? Like it is. And it deserves, it's funny because I've been talking about this and I just did a video. I want to write a book called Vagina Marketing because I'm like, what a cool concept, right? Because the male side, this push, this manipulation, this force, this hustle every day, the grinders, that's not working anymore, right? The world has gone feminine and I fucking love it, right? Right? It just doesn't work. So, all right. So Blair, I want to get into to you even more deeply, because this wild side of you and where you're going, like especially with your dad and with I Am Resilience Project, what would you say then is like your bigger mission in life? Like what is that big why that makes you wake up and makes you feel so energized to actually do the work, right? Because the outcomes are the best, but the work in between, we got to get up and get ready for it. So what is that mission and that why that's inside of you that brings it out?
You know, if I can speak to a room of 1,000 people and I inspire one person to make a change in their life, that's enough fuel to keep going. And just knowing that I have this platform in whatever capacity of social media, your platform, I write for people, I show up and I share experiences and lessons to help other people. That's enough to get me out of bed. Like I like to joke that I came into the world blaring.
Nice.
Given the gift of the gab, and it's all coming together. I'm coming into my late 30s and the pieces of the puzzle are starting to fit together. And I think my purpose here is to be of service to others, to really help everyone heal, grow, and learn.
Yeah, I love it. So good. So what would you say, because I know for like you and I, right, we built in this world, like I started my company before social media was even around, right? So it was like all men. I worked with Perry Marshall, godfather of marketing, and it was like I learned from them. And I found that even when I was in corporate, right, because it was super corporate, all I was doing is trying to please them. And then I realized that I was actually bringing in all this masculine energy into my business because that's all I knew. I only could learn from that. There was no other women to balance this feminine side, this masculine side. So how would you say right now that you are able to balance the masculine, feminine, or are there times when you go out of whack, and how do you get back into, balance again?
It wasn't until after my mother passed away that I even learned about masculine feminine energy. So this is new to me. And it's interesting because it's literally shown up. My grief counselor and death doula was telling me about that. Another healer was telling me about this. My therapist, a hairapist, which is like a hair therapist, different people who have no connection to one another have been bringing this up. I'm living in my masculine energy because when my mom passed away, I was able to show up for a fraction of things. I chose to show up because I'm not busy. I'm fulfilled. I refuse to be busy. It's toxic. I fulfill myself. I only take on what fulfills me, brings me joy. And that's how I know I'm living in alignment. And so when my mom passed away, I kept some stuff. I showed up to some stuff and I managed to have a multiple 5-figure launch. I noticed some big publications, mentioning me or like publishing pieces I wrote. And I was not all in at that time, but I'm all in all the time. And so I started talking about this with my therapists and I learned about this energy that I've been living in this survival mode, I don't like to say hustle, but like this work hard, head down mode.
Yeah. Heavy push.
Yeah. And so now I'm balancing it out. And so I'm back to waking up and I journal every day to music and I'm back to yoga and meditation. And I just bought a whole bunch of like things that make me happy, which is like, I've been living in like sweatsuits, like Lululemon, but sparkles and animal print. Like you're going to see me start showing up in more of this and like really, really diving into that feminine. Cause I miss wearing makeup. Like I did my makeup for you and I miss, I've been showing up with like my hair in a knot over here and like no makeup, even to interviews. Cause that's the capacity I had, but I was showing up and whether my hair is in a messy bun or done, I still have that information, but I was like, no, I like dressing up. So tapping to that feminine energy to find that balance has been one of my biggest missions since probably March.
Wow. Same. I mean, it's like the world is shifting though, Blair. Like I know that's what's happening because we're in the age of Aquarius and that means there's a lot more feminine energy that's present and the patriarch is going away. I mean, if you think about like the way women are showing up, like we didn't have to, you and I are both American or you're Canadian, I'm American. The equal opportunity rights for women isn't even past the United States. Like that makes me just like embarrassed to even consider equal opportunity for women is not even passed. And it's like we are growing empires, raising families, having it all. And all we knew is what we knew, right? My mom didn't know much about this feminine energy side as much. And so I just learned and to push through it. And now, same, it's like when we begin as women to just lean in. And we know, like, especially when we have men that can support us, like then we can actually create our magic. Like women, we're creators, like, right? We create life, right? So if we can have someone support us and create our magic, that's what it needs to be done.
And I'm learning to work with my cycle as well. Cause I decided, I mean, maybe things will change in a couple of years, but at this time, my desire to have children is shelved and I don't know if it's going to come back. And cause I really want to help people on a bigger scale. And like, I've just, I've been kind of having a lot of big feelings lately. That's going to be a future book. And so I'm learning to, because I'm like, do I want to go on contraceptive? And I'm trying to play with this because I'm really enjoying working with my cycle. Like right now I'm ovulating and I'm super creative and I pumped out all this writing and newsletters and I love writing. And that's how that's how I express. And I'm like, because I look when I'm really creative where I am in the cycle, and it's really interesting to align. And how lucky are we that we have the ability to learn these things?
It's so cool. Like one of the author of the book Rise Sister Rise, Rachel Campbell, we're like really close to her being one of our speakers for Women Gone Wild, but she talks about this. And I really learned this from that book. It was really powerful because she talks about those phases, right? The pre-ovulation, and then you go into like where you are, and then you go into ovulation, you're super creative. And then you go into this like phase that's like called the crone phase, like where you're just really, the wisdom really comes out. And it's like, understanding the nature of the energies that you have. I mean, like, I'm serious. It's also embarrassing to say I have a 14-year-old daughter, but there's so many lessons that I felt like I was missing out on that I didn't learn that I could teach my daughter because I was so like this, right? So me too.
We
like,
didn't know.
We didn't know.
We didn't know, right? Like
we didn't know.
I don't have a daughter, but I can tell you that my mom raised 2 daughters on her own. She worked very hard to give us a good education. They have life she wanted to give us. So she had a lot of that masculine energy, and it was all about survival for her.
Yeah, right.
It's all about survival and providing. And I'm from a long line of entrepreneurs. So I'm doing a lot of learning about the feminine energy and, all the stuff we're talking about from friends of mine who are diving into it, from social media, from working with experts. So,
Yeah, it's really powerful. I mean, and this is why this, Women Gone Wild movement is actually, I really believe it's like the fire that's been burning inside of me. And it's why it's taken so long for it to actually come out. It took 1.5 years so far. And now we're launching in a couple of weeks. And then we're having this bigger summit. And I realize that summit and why you're part of this as one of the head speakers. It's like, this message has to be out, and these women deserve the platform, And so I'm super excited about that, Blair. And you're right, like it's time.
I'm also doing a lot of work about what resilience means, what bravery means, because everyone's like, you're so resilient, you're so brave. Like I am a Leo. I have a Leo tattoo, like a lion tattoo.
I've got one on my back.
Oh, I love it. And it's about being fierce, but also where's the vulnerability side? So I'm actually counteracting that half sleeve with lilies and really gentle flowers. And I think part of being brave is being vulnerable and showing up. And it's okay to, be really happy, but also be really sad. And for me in social media, it's about showing up authentically as you. You don't need to share everything, but you got to have all ends of the spectrum. And we have the ability to be leaders in that. And what you're doing with Women Gone Wild is a huge catalyst in that. So thank you for creating it.
Yeah, thank you for being part of it. I mean, I didn't do it. It just came out. Like, it's all divinely orchestrating right now. I know that for certain, because seriously, the stuff that's coming from this summit, like the celebrities and the women that are coming out, I'm like, oh, can I handle this? Like, and all of a sudden my fears came in. I'm like, yeah. No, we got this, right? We totally got it. So Blair, I got to ask you this though, because I've been asking this of all the women, and it's just so beautiful of a message, especially because I do have a daughter and I know our younger generations are like watching us. And what would you say to the younger Blair, that younger self, little Blair, like when she was maybe 5, 6 years old, that's like, maybe your dad had just left and you're having all these gaps and these questions, to knowing what you know now, like what would that be, that message that you would leave with that little baby, young girl Blair?
Well, I think we know a lot more now than then. For me. Well, because I was thinking about this ahead of time. There's 2 things when it comes to my personal life. Like as a child, I wish I would have known to ask for help and ask for therapy. Therapy was kind of used as like a threat. Like if you don't behave, you're going to therapy. And my sister and I joke, we're like, we wish you would have sent us to therapy. And now my sister actually is a therapist. So it's kind of funny. I was on my way to becoming a psychologist and I was like, no, I'm going to go to PR. Not for me, but I ask for help. And, if you're of that age where you see someone struggling that, you're close to, suggest it, because therapy isn't a dirty word. It's not a dirty word. It's a tool. We go to the gym to strengthen our bodies. We read to strengthen our minds. Why not go to therapy? Not just when you need it, but ongoing. And then when it comes to like the other stuff that I wish, like I started my business when I was 23. And so some of you out here are maybe starting your business or you feel like you're lost. I wish I would have got a mentor. I was 23 and I knew what I was doing in PR, but I didn't know what I was doing in business. And I figured out a lot of stuff the hard way. Like I learned shit the hard way so you don't have to, which is basically all in my first book. And get a mentor. And that's why people like me exist. That's why people like, I don't know if you mentor, Rhonda, but I exist to help shepherd you, because why spend all that time and money on things that aren't going to work?
It's so big. That's huge advice. And it, you know, like every time one of the women that I'm asking this question to reply, I'm like, I hear it. I'm like, yeah, Jesus, I did too. Like I went through so much hell figuring stuff out. Like, damn it, just invest in yourself. Like find the right mentors, like especially like Blair, like what she's doing in social media and how she's taken the wholesomeness of a business and bringing it out. I mean, obviously we talked about your story, Blair, but like that's made you who you are. And I can feel the integrity and, you know, just who you are as a pillar, right, for your clients. And that's the kind of women that I want to work with. Like this Women Gone Wild movement, like it's turning into like this massive resource, right, of all these epic women that run epic businesses that are like fully conscious, they're doing the right things. I want women to find women like that, right? And it's turning into a big network. Like it's so big. So thank you for that. Thank you, Blair, for being you. Can you please share with everyone, where do they find you specifically? Because I know like they're going to see you on the summit in September 28th and through the 1st, but they need to know how to find you now because some people may want to work with you now.
Easy. My website, blairkaplan.ca. I'm going to spell it because there's lots of ways to spell those names. BLAIRKAPLAN.ca. All my social links are there. The I'm Resilient project, which is imresilient.info. Everything's there. And, you know, I'm on social media because that's my job and I love it. Like I love social. I'm always there engaging, you know, and, you know, if you're watching this and you feel inspired, let me know. Just let me know you saw it, where you saw it, and what inspired you.
I love it. Thank you, sister, so much. You are amazing. You're someone that's completely gone wild, and I cannot wait to be on the summit with you. And if you're watching this and you've already watched the summit, let us know how Blair did and what you got from it. And if you're getting ready for it, let us know down below how excited you are because it's coming soon, and we are so excited to watch and be with you to go wild. So what do you say, everyone? This has been a powerful interview. Imagine yourself in a moment being a young girl and all of a sudden your father detaches and you're wondering, doesn't he love me anymore? And you have all this second guessing, and then you find yourself in your late 20s understanding that he had an addiction, and then being able to recreate from nothing a new relationship with your father and use that and the traumas that you experience along your way to create a beautiful business that not only helps other business owners on social media, but more importantly, takes that relationship they had with their dad and turns it into a legacy. An I Am Resilience project that was supposed to be a legacy project for her and her father, and he's still now with her and alive. So be part of this. Can you imagine thinking about it? Like create a legacy for you, your business, and your life. And today, I really, truly hope that you got so much learning from Blair Kaplan. This woman is completely wild, and I cannot wait for you to meet her. So make sure you go follow Blair. And don't forget, come and be wild with us. Be wild with us. The book is either out now or it's getting ready to come out, but you can go to wgwbook.com. It's going to give you all the details. You can get access to the book. And we're doing some really cool stuff. When you get access to the book, when it launches or if it's already launched, you're not only going to get invited to our VIP for our summit, you'll get all of the free bonuses that all of these authors and our speakers are giving away to those that get access to the book and join us on the summit. This is going to be something powerful. This is one of the biggest projects I've ever launched, and I'm so excited to be wild with you and to always be unstoppable. See ya next time on the Rhonda Swan Show. See you later, everyone.